it's suffering from a lack of creative producing. There are not a lot of creative producers around their way there used to be. They seem now to me to be more interested in selling tickets than the quality of the work that is on the stage. I find that Broadway has become more like Las Vegas than Broadway used to be. When I first came to New York back in the late 60s, there were 54 operating Broadway theaters. Now there's half that, if not even less than half that. And most of them were doing straight plays, as you described, classical plays and new American plays by important American playwrights like Arthur Miller and Tennessee Williams and Edward Albee and that generation of playwriting. And now it's about a lot of musicals and very few plays. Most of the good productions that are coming over from England. I don't go to the theater very often because I'm not interested in musicals. I mean, if it's a Stephen Sondheim revival or one of the older like Rodgers and Hammerstein or Rodgers and Hart, those people wrote real musical theater. Now it's just one sort of dreadful song after another that. I think the American Idol television show, where they don't really sing, they just scream, has taken over Broadway. It's all about people with big, loud voices that scream at the top of their lungs and get applause for hitting high notes. It's not communicating the way musicals used to communicate through song. You would have a nice, lovely romantic scene happening, and then suddenly, for no reason at all, except the urge to sing would happen, and they would sing a beautiful song. And they don't do that anymore. Where the theater is exciting to me now in New York City is usually off-Broadway, or even off-Broadway. The theaters that are not-for-profit theaters, where they can risk doing more current, exciting new playwrights, and maybe even a little avant-garde, a little off the beaten path. That is where the cognoscenti of theater goers in New York will head to see. The other shows that are on Broadway seem to me to be more attractive to tourists and people who come from out of town and want to see a big Broadway show. But those of us who are interested in seeing meaningful theater, plays that are, that tell us something about the condition of our lives and the way we are living and the way we could improve our lives, those are the people who live in New York and the surrounding areas, who have been going to the theater all their lives and still want to come in across the bridges and the tunnels to get into Manhattan and see something that is worth their time and worth their money. Right now there is a production of Othello on Broadway with Denzel Washington, who is 70 years old and a little long in the tooth to be playing Othello, and Jake Gyllenhaal, who has never really done Shakespeare before, and they are charging 921 American dollars for orchestra seats, which is, to me, outrageous. And what is even more outrageous is that they're selling out. And I don't understand why. I mean, if you're sitting in the balcony, it's costing $400 and $500. It's absurd to me. I wouldn't pay that. If they paid me $921, I wouldn't sit and watch that. But that's just how I am. I have a different standard and a different taste than the average theater, the average tourist, let's put it that way. So I'm not in love with what's happening in New York. I think that the regional theaters, which are struggling for grants and for money and for larger audiences, are having difficulties. And of course, with President Trump talking about cutting off all the funding for the arts, I don't know what that's going to do to the regional theaters, because I don't know that without support from various foundations and the government and charitable organizations, the theater may die in the regional theater. And the regional theater is where to me, the great work is still being done. You go to Minneapolis or Washington, D.C., or Cincinnati or Chicago or Los Angeles or San Francisco, and wherever there's a regional theater, there's usually a company of actors with an artistic director who are devoted to the idea of doing theater that has meaning for its audiences rather than just entertainment. So that's where I am right now. I have seen maybe 4 plays in the last 4 years, whereas I used to see a play a week back in the old days when I wasn't working myself. I would go and see everything. Now I don't. I just don't go. I have the National Theater live on my phone, or on my television rather. It's an app that you can download and pay a yearly fee to see the plays that are being done at the National Theatre in England, which is still, they have a very mixed program that they do. Classical work, modern work, new work, some musicals. They do it all, and it usually ends up coming to Broadway, where you'll have to pay a lot of money to see it, and I can watch it at home on my television for practically no money at all. So if I want to see a good play, I just turn on National Theatre Live. So there you have it. I've talked enough about that. I think you probably get the point right now of my attitude towards what's happening in the American theater. But come and visit and come and see, find out what's really good and go see that. All right, have a good day. Take care. And again, lovely to hear from you. Goodbye.